Now that preseason is over and the Commanders are going to have to cut down their roster, I wanted to talk about some players that I hope stick around with this team. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about some players that I hope stick around with the Washington Commanders. And so let's start with the offensive side of the ball, and let's start with the wide receivers. I think that out of all the wide receivers that were fighting for a position with this team, I want to see Ja'Cory Brooks stick around with this team. I think that Ja'Cory Brooks, to me, has outplayed Chris Moore, River Craycraft, Jacoby Jones, Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, Braylon Sanders, and Tay Martin. I think that Ja'Cory Brooks has definitely done so. And I'm not going to say that it was perfect. I think that we had, read and heard that Ja'Cory Brooks had kind of been up and down throughout training camp, but I think that there were more ups than downs. And I think that for him, he just went out there and showed what he could do every time that he got a chance in preseason play. I did like what I saw from him in this last game against the Baltimore Ravens. And so for me, I think that Ja'Cory Brooks is a guy that I would like to see stick around. And what I love about him too is that here's a player that he didn't have the best 40 time, but when I was looking at just his clips and things like that, one of the things that you see with him is just that he has football speed. And so he's just a gamer. And I think he's a guy that can go out there. And I think that those contested catches and just his football speed, I think that it showed really in preseason. And I think that when you put him out there, and give him a chance, hopefully with Jaden Daniels and that first team at some point, I think that you're going to see that the Washington Commanders really got an undrafted gem here with Ja'Cory Brooks. And so I think he's the first player that I would like to just keep with this team. I think that when you look at the wide receivers and just really how it's probably going to shake out here, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey, Noah Brown, Jalen Lane, and I think Ja'Cory Brooks should be that guy. I think that Jalen Lane certainly showed, that he definitely was, steps above those wide receivers that we mentioned earlier. And I think he's definitely ahead of Ja'Cory Brooks. And with Luke McCaffrey, look, I think that he had a very good close to preseason. And I think that we may see more of what he can do once you get the full personnel with this group. And so he slides back down maybe to, more of a natural fit where they would want to put him in the offense. And so maybe we start to see some things with him throughout the season. But make no mistake about it, not to get too far off topic, Ja'Cory Brooks is the type of guy that he showed me that I think he could run just pretty much all the routes. I think he could be a guy that you could count on underneath. I think he has the speed and just the ability with the catch radius and just to get contested catches to make plays down the field. So Ja'Cory Brooks, the first guy that I would like to see stick around. And so the next player that I would like to see stick around with this team and just staying with the offense is I would like to see Kaz Allen. I think that Kaz Allen is a guy that I would like to see very much stay with the Washington Commanders. I think that this is a guy that really you can use him in special teams. I think that he has that home run type of speed. And I think that this is something that this offense wants to do. I think that when they made the shift like they did from Brian Robinson Jr., who is just really a downhill bruising type of runner, I think that they wanted to get a bit more versatile, get into these zones, get to the outside and things like that. And I think that Kaz Allen is a guy that you want to keep on the roster. I'm not going to say that he's going to be, a player that's necessarily going to get, a whole bunch of playing time here or things like that. But I think he should at least be in your 70s. So at least in the practice squad. And so let's see what happens. I would be fine with that. And if he does get called up, I don't think that I would necessarily worry with Kaz Allen. Again, I think he's a guy that could immediately really contribute to your special teams game. And I think that that's something that Dan Quinn has said several times with special teams. He wants it's a unit that he's very, proud of, and he wants it to definitely shine, especially when, opposing teams decide to kick the football into the field of play, he wants to be able to take advantage of that. And so Kaz Allen would be a player that could do so. And I think that he showed, in some of the clips and some of the stuff that we had read, just his ability to just break away and do things like that. So Kaz Allen, hopefully he sticks around with the team. And so the next player that I'm hoping sticks around with the team here is going to be Colson Yankoff. And so for me, he's a guy that he's very intriguing, man. I think that when you saw that last game against the Ravens, I love that 52-yard catch that he had. You just saw the great hands, but you see just how fast he can get down the field as a tight end. And so he's a guy that definitely intrigues me, especially with the way that this offense likes to run. Yes, I know that we're going to see a lot of Zach Ertz and things like that, but look, Zach Ertz is not going to be here, forever. And so you have got to start to look at the future a little bit. And I think that with Colson Yankoff, he's a guy that I would like to see we keep around. And so I think that Ben Sinnott, yes, he's going to be there. I think that this is a year in which he needs to step up some more. John Bates, I think he's terrific at blocking and things like that. I don't think he's going anywhere. And then with Zach Ertz, we know what we get with him, but I would like to see them go and keep Colson Yankoff. And so hopefully Colson Yankoff, a guy that comes back to the Commanders, and he also is very good in special teams as well. And so let's not throw that out the window too. I think that he has the upside as a tight end, and also to the special teams, which again, Coach Dan Quinn has said that this is one of the units that he definitely takes pride in here. And so you definitely want to keep, I think, Colson Yankoff around. And so next thing that I want to talk about is going to be players that on the defensive side of the ball that I would like to see the Commanders keep. And so let's start with Tyler Owens. And so I think that Tyler Owens is a guy that I would like to see the Washington Commanders keep. I think just the way that the defense wants to really attack, as far as just having these athletic players that can be versatile and things like that. Like, I think that Tyler Owens is that type of guy. I think that he's still really trying to find it. And I think that you keep him around. I think he's also a guy that can also contribute on the special teams and things like that. And look, if one of your safeties do go down, then I do think that you would go with Tyler Owens and throw him out there and see what you can get with him. And I think he's a guy that didn't shy away from the physicality. He's just that hybrid, his safety linebacker type of role. And just going back to Dan Quinn and his defenses and just really what he had in Seattle, he had just a lot of players that were kind of versatile like that. And so Tyler Owens is a guy that I hope he sticks around. I know that this is one of the groups that Dan Quinn talked about as far as being like really competitive. And so I'm just hoping that he's able to stay out there, stay with this team. Let's see what happens if they go ahead and elect to keep him. And so the next player that I think is probably into that same boat is just far as being athletic. I think he's shown some flashes. And he also played, I think, a ton here in the preseason. It's going to be Robert McDaniel. And so I think that with him, here's another guy showing that athleticism. I think a guy that really you're trying to figure out what he is as far as that hybrid type of role. And I was kind of impressed with what I saw with him. I mean, it wasn't like anything spectacular or anything like that, but I do think that it's worth keeping. I think between Robert McDaniel and then Tyler Owens, these are two players that I would love to see the Commanders keep around. I'm hoping maybe that, look, if they're not going to get on the 53 again, hopefully that these players would at least get on the practice squad. And so anyway, these are some players that I'm thinking initially as we get ready to head into just the roster being cut down or whatnot. Again, and just to clarify this, I'm just talking about a couple players that I'm hoping stick around with the team. I'm not saying that they necessarily make the 53. I'm just hoping that they make it in the 70, just to clarify that. And so you guys let me know in the comments what you're thinking. Who are the players that you would like to see the Washington Commanders keep around? Regardless, like if they make the 53, great. If they make the 70, don't care what it is. Just let me know in the comments who you're thinking should stick around here with the Washington Commanders. And so as we always say, look, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.